Please support a CxO podcast, Talk of the Town, with your wonderful host, Kanwal Masroor. Like kare, share kare, or subscribe kare.
Assalamu alaikum ji, this is Kanwal Masroor with another episode of CxO podcast, Talk of the Town. आज हमारे साथ again एक और बड़े amazing guest हैं. मैं हमेशा ये बात करता हूँ कि हमारे साथ बड़े amazing guest होते हैं, but आज हमारे साथ एक गोरा amazing guest है. So we have Timothy Todd Shea. He is the founder of CDRS. Very amazing person, very good friend of mine. Assalamu alaikum Todd, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Good to see you, Kanwal.
Good to see you, Janab. Thanks for coming.
It's an honor.
We've been having fun all the time, we've been discussing most of the things. So you can speak Urdu as well. Thoda.
Samajh thoda. I just have a few words.
Zabardast?
Zabardast, my favorite word by far in any language, right?
Okay.
I love that word. I love to say it. Zabardast.
Zabardast is very good.
Kanwal, you are Zabardast. I love it.
I'm actually.
Yeah. But then there's also like Khubsurat and Mazadar and a lot of those. And then I'm learning little phrases for my in-laws, because they speak no English at all. So I say like, aapko koi cheez chahiye?
Okay.
Little things that I learned so that they at least appreciate that I'm trying.
Okay.
But, I think I've been here for almost 18 years in Pakistan.
18 years?
Yes. So I should be fluent, right? But, us Goras, we can't even speak English properly, right? Ask any British person. We've destroyed their language, right? So we can't even speak our own language correctly, properly, like proper British English. And Pakistanis here speak English. The ones that speak English better than most Americans.
I can vouch that.
So how I can learn Americans, unfortunately, at least for me and my age, going to school and throughout school, there was no emphasis in the education system on learning languages, other languages. So that part of the brain that develops early when you're younger, like Pakistanis learn so many different kinds of languages just within the country and within this region. But in America, unfortunately, it hasn't been, something that has been concentrated on. So the populace it's really hard for most of your average Goras like me to learn another language. So I think that's why it's been difficult for me. The other reason is because a lot of my staff, they speak English pretty well. And everywhere I go in Pakistan, even the most remote village, I find people that speak English. So it hasn't
we are
been
more smart.
They are. They're brilliant. The brilliance of this country, it's in the ground, it's in the soil. It's something that emanates from the soil.
We know how to speak multiple languages.
Yeah, there's something there. The brilliance. I mean, I have been in the most remote villages, and they're sometimes dirty, dusty places, and you see a kid come out of a mud house with a perfectly bleached white school uniform, and you find out that they are MS Word and Microsoft professional certified at 8 or 9, 10 years old. You'll find that in places. And it's amazing.
Okay.
So there's definitely some brilliance
You
here.
should learn Urdu because, it's been 18 years. फिर वो we can say तुम हमको लगान देगा. You have seen that movie. Okay, so interestingly,
I'm going to work on it, I promise.
Okay. ठीक है. So Zabardast. So we would like to know your early childhood journey. Where did you start? What did you study, and how did you end up with coming into Pakistan? We've been talking to each other, quite a while, but we would like to know. Please.
Well, you as an ambassador of CDRS, somebody who has helped us out a lot in your official capacities, we really appreciate.
Very small capacity. Yes.
To us, it's big, and we appreciate it.
Haven't done much, but we can plan accordingly.
Thank you. So I started out in life in 1966.
Okay.
September 1966. I was born in just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And I grew up just outside of D.C. So you can say that just 20 minutes away from my house is where all the shenanigans in the world have been emanating from, although I had nothing to do with it. It was nearby me, and so my journey as a kid, just a normal middle class upbringing. My father worked for the government. My mother worked for a small electric fixture company. And we just had a normal middle class life until, unfortunately, in 1978, my mother passed away.
Oh.
And then from there, things went downhill.
Okay.
As I became a teenager, I started using drugs, got into the wrong crowd, and I ended up getting heavily addicted to cocaine.
Okay.
So I was a cocaine addict in my young life.
Okay.
And I never got into crime as far as like, I didn't steal things and I didn't assault people and, I didn't do that kind of crime, but I was heavily involved into using drugs.
Okay.
And so that led me onto a path where I probably should have died several times of overdosing. And, several times I definitely had done enough of the drug for my heart to just explode. And I think just by the grace of Allah, maybe he had some idea of what I'll be doing in the future and to keep me around, even save me from myself on many occasions.
Okay.
So I got into music, and at that time, music kind of helped save me from maybe going completely over the edge. So I became a musician, and I ended up becoming a professional musician.
Excellent.
And that kind of eventually got me out of that life. Music helped me a lot because my mother had bought me a guitar just before she died. And I got it Christmas morning, about a month after she had passed away in 1978. So I really stuck with that guitar. And even though I was getting involved in the wrong crowd and starting to use drugs, and I wasn't going to school, and I was truant from school and all these things, because that was a gift from my mother, I really concentrated. So I got good at playing, which then gave me opportunities in music. So I ended up joining the United States Marine Corps in order to get away from drugs. Like I thought, this is the only way I can get away from drugs. Either it kills me or maybe. So I joined the Marine Corps, and unfortunately, while I was in boot camp, about a month later, the blood test that they give you by surprise came up positive for cocaine. They kicked me out of the Marine Corps. And after that, it was just enough time to get the drugs out of my system while I was there in the Marine Corps, and to get myself kind of refocused and a little bit more physically fit. So basically at that point, I just totally got into music and left drugs behind. And then I started playing, in popular bands.
And you did it by yourself?
Did it by myself. Well, I mean, you can say that the Marine Corps didn't sign up for it, but they were basically my rehab. Because I had enough wherewithal to know that if I kept on the path I was going, definitely I was going to be dead or in jail, like many of my friends ended up. So by going into the Marine Corps, I knew I was going to be going to a place where I had no access to the drug. So then I was able to get the drug out of my system and start healing from that damage of what the drug does to your brain and the addiction. So that helped me get the escape velocity I needed to get away from cocaine and crack cocaine and things like that. Very heavily addictive substance. I think only sugar and heroin are more stronger addictions as far as substances go to humanity. So cocaine's a bad one. And a lot of people don't make it out of addiction to cocaine. They lose everything or they end up dead. And so from there, I went professionally into music. Eventually I started recording and traveling a lot and was with bands, and then started doing my own songwriting and recording, and then started to get popular. And I got a record deal and was managed by a guy named Sid Bernstein, who brought the Beatles and Rolling Stones to America.
Very nice.
In the 60s. And when he met me, of course, it was 2000. So he was in his 90s, but he was still very influential because he'd worked with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Frank Sinatra and many other big artists of the time. And so he was helping me out, and he liked my music, and I had set up a showcase. He had set up a showcase for me to play at CBGB's world famous nightclub in Lower Manhattan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that date of the show was September 12th, 2001. So September 11 happened the day before.
Oh.
I woke up in the hotel. I saw the towers one of the towers on fire. Then I saw the other tower explode when the other plane hit. And I ended up taking my van, which was full of my amplifiers and guitars and all that, unloading that and going down to ground zero and working for a week, helping the firefighters and the rescuers and people with getting supplies, even the rescue dogs and firemen and anyone that was down there trying to find survivors and clean up that mess down there. So for that first week, I was giving supplies like medicines and
very nice.
Boots and masks and other kinds of things that were needed down there at Ground Zero. Eye wash, Visine for people's eyes, and and we had a little store set up at the corner of Church and Liberty, right at the scene of where the towers fell, and we were supplying people, and a couple people also came on board, and we had a little thing going. And then I realized after about the 5th day of being there that we weren't needed anymore. In the first couple days, when everything was chaos, as a lone wolf, I was able to get things that people needed right away or very quickly, while the larger efforts were taking shape. And it takes large logistical efforts, days to get all in order. So after about 4 or 5 days, they had it together, and I realized I wasn't needed anymore. So at that point, I was just in the way, so I left. And but that changed me, and that's probably why I'm here. I mean, I was going for a trajectory of music, but after being at Ground Zero, I had this very strange feeling that I'd never felt before. Before, I was looking for getting gold records and having a big mansion on the hill and making it big in music and famous, and I was going for that. And it looked like I was having a chance to get there, right? A real chance with some really good people. My last album before that was produced by a guy named Brian Karlstrom, who had worked with Alice in Chains,
very nice,
Four Non Blondes and The Offspring and several big acts. So I had the right people in place. After 9/11, the pursuit of that for me personally, this isn't saying anything about other people that want to make it in the music business. This is only for me personally. It felt like a selfish pursuit. It felt like a shallow pursuit compared to what I had done to make a difference at 9/11. And so I felt that I have discovered this thing in me because of 9/11 that I didn't even know I had, which was this logistics ability in a disaster situation. And then it went back to what my mother told me not long before she died. We were in a line of cars, a traffic jam. If anyone knows Washington, D.C. area, the Beltway traffic jams are, they're epic, they're world famous. So there's cars going this way, so you see the red taillights from the cars and back in front of you, and then the cars oncoming the headlights. So my mother made the remark that see all these thousands of headlights and taillights. All you see is the lights, but inside each car are human beings, and we should care about all human beings. She was the type of person who would give somebody their last dime if she thought they needed it more. So she said, all these people here on the road and in the world, even on the other side of the earth, we should care about them. So that always stuck with me. So I think that when 9/11 happened, and I had this realization and this direction that was pulling me away from the commercial, pursuit of fame and fortune and music to something more, a purpose more real and more beneficial to humanity. Because there's a lot of guitar players and singers and artists, and the world can do well without me if I wasn't staying on that route.
There are actually something that give you a satisfaction.
And there's less people that will go to disaster zones and go to places and help those who are poor and most suffering. So I felt it was a noble cause, and I felt that God was pulling me in that direction, and my heart was telling me that's where I should go. So I ended up leaving music and I felt that I had accomplished everything that I wanted to in music. Even though I never got big and famous, I had put out some CDs. I had written some songs that I was very proud of. I had played in front of thousands of people. I had fans. I was on the cover of a couple magazines. I felt validated that my worth as a musician, I've self-validated, and I really don't need validation anymore from others on whether I'm good at guitar and singing and songwriting. And rather, I think I can do better for the world and my place in the world, pursuing this purpose of doing humanitarian work. So I pursued that. And then I went to Belize in Central America. I went to, there were some hurricanes, and then I went to Sri Lanka after the tsunami in Sri Lanka. And that same year, there was the Hurricane Katrina, and I went there. And then at Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, I was there for just about a month. And at the end of that month, when I came back from working there, we rescued a lot of animals there. We rescued people. We worked with the U.S. Army, and we did a lot of great work. But when I came back, I had to bring a truck back to the state of Maryland, who had let me use the truck to bring down these Zodiac boats for the U.S. Army to use. That was my original mission, to go down there. So when I brought the truck back to Maryland and I went to see my son, who was 16 at the time, I went and got a pizza, and we sat down to the pizza. I hadn't been in the door for 5 minutes. Gave my son a big hug, turned on the television, earthquake in Pakistan. Is all over the news. So I said to my son, I'm going to Pakistan.
That was 2005, I guess.
2005, October 2005, October 8th.
And all this you were doing was in your personal capacity?
Yes,
or
just as a personal volunteer that just went to different places. I volunteered with organizations, but when the disaster happened in Sri Lanka, for instance, I contacted several organizations, and one called Global Crossroads picked me up, and I deployed with their team in Sri Lanka. So it was kind of like that. In New Orleans, it was a group of from New York, Battery Park City Community Emergency Response Team, and some of the Naval Auxiliary Coast Guard people, and we all went down together and worked. And so when the earthquake in Pakistan happened and I saw this, I just Googled the Pakistan embassy number, because I never knew anything about Pakistan except for the bad news they tell you on the TV, right? So I would hear, all of these things, and I thought this is an opportunity for me to see for myself what is Pakistan all about. Is it so bad as what they say on CNN and Fox News? All these bad things we always hear about how it's a terrorist country. So, but really, it just, I was just coming back from one disaster and one disaster before that. So I was still in disaster relief mode. I was still ready to keep helping people. So when I saw the earthquake, I thought, let me go there. I had made the decision immediately upon seeing it on TV that I'm going to go to Pakistan, because I knew there would be people that needed help and needed logistics people. So before I knew who I was going with or how I was getting there or
you
any of that, I'd already made that intention. So, I believe Allah opens doors for people, when you make that intention to go for something and you really have that passion to go do that, then Allah will open those doors. So in my case, after talking to the Pakistan embassy, they gave me the number of a group of Pakistani American doctors from APNA and Islamic Medical Association of North America. They were teaming together with Pakistan Medical Association. So that effort that was starting to bring doctors over, I talked to some of their coordinators, and they said, yes, we need, we can use a logistics person, because we're a bunch of doctors that we'll be up in the mountains. We have no idea what to expect once we get there. So I went there with them, and I helped them with their tents and their blankets and their food and their delivery of supplies, and going back and forth on the helicopters, picking up more medicine and more people and more supplies to help them build their tent hospital. So that's what I did for the first couple months. And then I was asked by them to stay long term. And then after about 6 months through the winter, I had become friends with a couple of Pakistan Army brigadiers who had become, they're still like brothers to me. And they were tasked with doing the relief work for the Army in Jhelum Valley. So we were there with our tent hospital with volunteers from all over the world coming at that point. And so I would go meet with the brigadiers about, okay, so we should send a helicopter to this mountain or this village, or we should send a medical team. And we were always coordinate together. Then we started.
Despite of that, you were actually new within the Pakistan because you don't know the geographically, spaces, so that wasn't a difficult thing.
I was in Pakistan. I was in Kashmir for a month before I knew that I was actually in Kashmir.
Okay. So you didn't knew that?
Yeah, I just knew I was in Pakistan. And even when I first came to Pakistan, so many people I'd worked with at Hurricane Katrina, I said, why don't you come with me? One guy ended up coming with me, but the rest of them were all like, well, Pakistan, you're going into the belly of the beast. They're going to kill you. Or even if they don't kill you, their children are going to come blow us up in 10, 15, 20 years. And I was like, you know what? I already don't believe half of what our own media says. And I'm going to see for myself. Okay. I'll bet you that I find wonderful people in Pakistan. And I'll bet you that it's nothing like what is portrayed, or the percentage, the proportion is out of whack in how it's reported. Mm-hmm. The moment I came to Pakistan, I realized that Americans in general are shown by the Western media and our government to know only 2% of the truth 100% of the time.
Okay.
So if we took New York City and we only reported on the rapes and robberies and crime there and never about all the good things, then we could make that look like something, that is no one would ever want to go see, right? So I think it's unfortunate that those bad elements that exist everywhere in the world, we're focused on in Pakistan because of 9/11 and these things, and portrayed to the American public as though this is how the country is and how the people are. And of course, when I came here, I found it to be very different. One of my very first indications was when I got off the helicopter in this wrecked village that was destroyed by the earthquake. Of course, I didn't even know it was Azad Kashmir at the time. I learned that later when somebody was just mentioning that. And I was like, oh, so I'm in Kashmir. Okay. And then they explained. Then I started getting an education more about the situation in the area. But when I got off the helicopter and I had my duffel bag and another bag, this young lieutenant in the Pakistan Army came up to me. Okay. And he said, may I take your bag, sir? Oh. And he spoke such perfect English. I'd like, oh, wait a second. And then I realized these guys speak English better than Americans. That's when I first realized, right? And so then from that point on, and every day, a new example of the unraveling of my preconceived notions about what I'd heard about Pakistan was always up front, right? The friendliness of the people, the openness of the people, the extreme hospitality, like you will never find anywhere on earth that I've ever been. And just the fact that most people didn't even know what the word terrorism was. They were befuddled by it because they were good Muslims living in some village, trying to live their life, praying 5 times a day, trying to live off the land, support their families in many cases in poverty or near poverty, and just trying to survive and not even thinking about hurting somebody in America. Not even
they don't have any ideas.
It wasn't even like in the anywhere in their universe.
I think there was some rumors or something, a global agenda to make things down for Pakistan. But as I've told you, that we've been a victim for a very long time for against the terrorism being within the Pakistan.
Yeah, Pakistan got off to a rough start.
When did you decide to start an organization like a CDRS? You have founded, I think, 18 years back.
Yeah, it wasn't a plan. Okay. Like coming to Pakistan was just,
accidentally.
It happened. I was coming from one disaster. I saw another disaster, and I wanted to go. I wanted to see what Pakistan was all about. And but the more I stayed here, the more I fell in love with the country. I just fell in love with the place, and I loved the mountains. I loved the people. The way I was treated was very well, and I had a purpose that mattered. Okay. I was doing things that were literally involved in saving people's lives and saving people from being the victim of more suffering, right? And so it was something that that did my heart good, and I got a lot of love and appreciation and respect for doing that from the local people and from our donors. It also gave me the opportunity to know my own country better, because I never knew Pakistani Americans or Muslims. I just never was in that crowd or knew them. Okay. So to have been so involved with our donors who ended up being mostly Pakistani Americans, and I learned about a huge community in my own country that I never knew.
Okay.
And how much wonderful people they are, and they've supported, they're 99% of the support of our organization.
Okay.
There's quite a few Pakistani Americans who don't particularly like me and don't particularly support me. And that's fine. They have their reasons, but there's also a really good size that does support me and does appreciate what I've done, that I've come from America and I've come here and I have respected this country and its people and given them love and concern, and then my time and effort. So, fortunately, there are people that appreciate that. And then there's some people that for some reason don't see that, the conspiracy theories and stuff. So some people can't get past their own geopolitical ideology to see that somebody is actually just there for humanity. Some people think, it must be an angle. He must be doing it for this reason. It's always some nefarious thing.
Being more like a judgmental people.
How about it's just because my mom said when I was young that we should care about people on the other side of the earth. And I took her word to heart, right? So when I was here for a couple months, one of the brigadiers, Brigadier Shea Khan from 10th Brigade, Sialkot, he said to me, Todd, he goes, a lot of people are leaving. A lot of NGOs are leaving now, and people are going away. But this place is totally wrecked. Him and I were working together on the medical, but we were also working together to establish over 250, 300 schools with UN support, with their schools in a box and their supplies, but we were helping and working with the Army to deliver them. And so we collaborated on all of this relief work together, all the medical facilities, the helicopters and stuff. So Brigadier Shea, one morning in our normal morning meeting, he said, Todd, why don't you start your own organization? There was not even really a thought in my mind of starting my own organization. But once we were running out of money from the original mission, and once it was time to think about, everybody else is leaving, maybe I should go, the emergency is over. Brigadier Shea said, this is going to be a bad situation for a long time. It's going to take a long time for these people to rebuild and to get over the trauma of what has happened here. And he goes, we need some people to stick around. And everybody loves you, Todd. So why don't you stick around? And we'll even help you. So I got some help registering and ended up starting CDRS, hiring some of my team of people on the ground that were victims of the earthquake themselves. Almost all of my team, in fact, some that are still with me to this day, their houses were flattened. They had relatives that died. They were fortunate to have survived, and they started working with me as volunteers. Well, I took many of them on, and they became my employees and my core team. And we started helping the government of AJK and whichever NGOs like Pakistan Red Crescent and different ones, UNICEF. We were in that group working together to establish the medical system that had been destroyed. And that's what we did for 5 years. When the 2009 SWAT crisis happened, we went over and we worked with ED. And a friend of mine, Dr. Numan Siddiqui from Ayub Medical College, he brought us together with ED. And we worked over there to help people that had escaping the fighting in SWAT and were holed up in schools and campgrounds and wherever they could stay in District Mardan and Swabi. And so we did that. And then the 2010 floods happened. Then we started working all over Pakistan. So then we expanded just from Azad Kashmir to now working, we worked everywhere from Dasu, Kohistan, all the way down to Hyderabad, Sajaval, and 10 different places in between in the 2010 floods. Then the 2011 floods in Sindh. And so then we started working in all of these disasters. So we have now worked in every flood that Pakistan has had, every earthquake, every calamity, major calamity. We have supported with relief operations, medical teams, medicines, supplies, tents, blankets, food, water, all those things. Now, fast forwarding to 18 years almost, we have 2 House of Blessings for widows and orphans, one in Karachi, one in Islamabad, and we want to expand and have more because we have this concept for House of Blessings where we want these kids to have a normal a childhood as possible. So we want them to live in a home that is a normal home, and they go to a regular school, and as much as we possibly can, give them an experience, not of an institutional orphanage or a place where they're given just the very bare minimum in nutrition and in education, but actually give them everything they need. So thankfully, we have some good donors that support us here in Pakistan as well as in US, so that we're able to give these children a good life.
And how many children there are in the school?
So we have
House of Blessings.
Yeah, in the House of Blessings in Pindi and in Karachi, we have about 75.
Okay.
Yes. And some of the children have their mothers, but the fathers have died, or the father has disappeared. And 1 or 2 cases, a drug addicted person or somebody. And so we have that kind of situation. Then we have some who have neither mother or father. And so it's a little bit of mix and match of everything. But since we have several mothers that live there, plus our own staff, they also mother the children who doesn't have either. And we have good people like one of the social media influencers and hostesses and actresses, Dr. Tyra Shahid helps us out, and Touch Tone Communications.
Yusuf.
Yusuf Saab. He is one of our main sponsors of the Pindi location. So we have really good people that are just enriching the children's lives. We bring people like the singer Karataline Baloch. She came one day and one of the kids is a really good singer. So she was giving lessons. And so we bring like successful people in to talk with the kids.
Give them an encouragement that, you are living a normal life rather than, going for an orphanage.
Yes. And Faiza Shah, who's worked with Charles Fazino, one of the biggest artists in the U.S. over the years in pop art. She is here now. She works with the director Shoaib Mansoor. But she comes and gives art lessons to the kids every Sunday. So it's we give a little bit of everything, One of my partners, Lanny Cordola, sometimes gives guitar lessons to the kids. He's worked with Guns N' Roses, and he's worked with all of these big artists, Blake Shelton and Nick Cave and Rage Against the Machine and all these other ones that he's been involved with. So we have our Sonic Peacemakers group, and he's helping a lot of Afghan refugees right now. So we all work together trying to do good for kids that need us the most. That's basically what we're here to do at CDRS, is just do as much as we can to inspire others to do the same as what we're doing, which is to try to alleviate suffering and give people hope and a chance. We've rebuilt a lot of houses. APNA and the New England chapter of APNA has tasked us with building houses. We just finished that project in flood areas. We built over 70 houses. I think we're building another almost 100 houses for Mary Petroleum. And we have a food truck with Mary Petroleum that goes...
I remember that, the mobile Dastarkhan.
Mobile Dastarkhan. And that Mary Petroleum truck that they fund and we operate, also when they had the winter emergency a little over a year ago, where people were trapped in Murray. We went to the place where they were digging people out literally, and we were parked there, and every car that got free, these people hadn't had food or water for 24 to 48 hours. So we had food and biscuits and water and hot tea and coffee and things like that. So we're able to do these kinds of things with that truck. Then we have over 700 water projects all over the country, from reverse osmosis water filtration units and filtration systems all the way down to community hand pumps. And those are everywhere. We have a lot of them in Balochistan and Tar Desert, but we have them up in Gilgit-Baltistan and KPK and also in Punjab as well. Some places in southern Punjab and in Kasur and a lot in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So we are doing a big water project. And that's one of our main things now, along with the House of Blessings. The House of Blessings is a big project in our hearts, although it's small right now. We want to grow that. Our water projects are actually really big. And then we also have started a animal welfare project, the Benji Project for Animal Welfare and Rescue, which has made history in Pakistan in a couple ways. Very first national ambulance service, although small.
For animals?
Yeah, for animals, yes. So we help pick up animals that have been injured or need rescue, or mothers with puppies, or maybe puppies where the mother has been hit by a car and now they're abandoned. So we have a facility in Gulberg Greens, which is the very first trap, neuter, vaccinate, release program in Pakistan's history as far as a facility on ground that's what its purpose is. And that has been something that it's there. It's not going to be able to solve all of Pakistan's dog population problem, but it is there to set an example and show the way. We are doing the Turkish model, what they did in Turkey 20 years ago, which is to make sure the dogs are vaccinated and that they're fixed so they can't get pregnant or make new unwanted, abandoned cats and dogs, right? So we have this facility there. It's been there now over a year and a half. And the ambulance services, which has one in Karachi, two in this area of Islamabad and Pindi, one in Charsada in Peshawar area, one in Faisalabad, and one in Lahore. So, and we're trying to expand that fleet and do as much as possible. We've also made history by signing the first agreement, an MOU with the government of Pakistan representation in Skurdu, the commissioner and AC and DC of Skurdu. We have an MOU, and they have agreed to stop killing dogs, and we are capturing the dogs and giving the surgery so that there cannot be new pregnancies and new dogs coming, and that a lot of people don't understand that, and what we're trying to do is grow that. We have an MOU on the table that is going to be signed with the Gilgit-Baltistan Chief Secretary. That's been delayed a few days because of the recent political turmoil of the new Chief Minister coming in. But now that's happened, hopefully we'll get that done. And then that'll be our second MOU. So we're going to be working up there, and hopefully that within the coming years, we'll be signing MOUs and doing this work with all government entities. We're talking to the current federal government about this, and they're very interested in our program because it's the answer. It's the Islamically permissible way. It's not cruel. It's not poisoning or shooting the dogs.
That was my point for the next question was, is it permissible in Islam?
Yes. So we've talked to, this isn't just my opinion, we've talked to several Islamic scholars who are very knowledgeable and very worldly in understanding the aspects of the Quran that deal with animals, right? So it is absolutely 100% not permissible under Islam to shoot and poison a mother dog and her little pups. If you have a dog that's rabid or one that's attacking you, that's a different story. Of course, you can neutralize that dog. But when it comes to these dogs that are just hiding under the car and they're trying to avoid people because they're so scared of them, just trying to survive and live their lives, those are not fair game in Islam. And let that be very clear to anyone who thinks that these are dangerous animals. Actually, it's the other way around. It is that we are more responsible for dogs, especially dogs, but even cats. And we domesticated them. Eventually, they became their own species, the dogs. Dogs are hardwired in their DNA to love human beings because of that relationship that came from wolves. They've now split off. They are not the same species as wolves, even though they came from wolves. And that's scientifically proven through the DNA that they come from wolves. So dogs were not directly, they were indirectly created by Allah. Allah created wolves. Man created dogs, so dogs are domesticated. That makes us responsible for them. So whatever dogs do wrong when they're abandoned by us and back out on the street is our fault. We abandoned them. We left them to their own devices. And life is very tough and difficult. So rather than hating them because they bark all night, because they bite people, because sometimes they spread rabies, and this is a human being's fault. This is the fault of people and systems for many years now that have left these animals abandoned. So what Turkey did 20 years ago was they started shooting and poisoning. And certain animal activists raised the issue. And finally, the government and NGOs and civil society got together. And if you go to Istanbul now, for instance, you'll see dogs, they're collared, they're friendly, they're docile, they never bite anybody, because the aggressive animals are taken out and the dogs are fixed. Because once you fix a dog and give them the surgery, they no longer have the testosterone production. They're no longer so territorial and so feisty and vicious, and they're not out there looking for a mate, and they're not looking for new territory in the same way. So it's actually something that becomes a much more controllable, docile animal. So I tell people all the time when I talk to people at housing societies and things, and even school children, if you have 100 dogs that have gotten this surgery and this treatment, and then you have 100 dogs that have not, well, these 100 dogs will be ferociously aggressive, cause all kinds of problems. But those same 100 dogs after treatment, you'll hardly even know they're there. They become very much calm. So we're trying to convince the society. The other scientific reason why shooting and poisoning doesn't work is because if you have one little neighborhood or one housing society, shoot and poison all the dogs, now that area is empty. It's empty of dogs. Number one, the rats and mice population could come up and really spread disease.
That is actually a part of ecosystem as well.
Part of the ecosystem. You want some dogs, just not too many. Right now, there's too many. Everywhere you go in Pakistan, there's too many. If I pick up one the people want me to pick up the dogs from their neighborhood, I say, where do I put them? I put them in somebody else's neighborhood where they already have too many dogs, and then they're mad at me. So the problem is everywhere in Pakistan. So the solution is to do this. So if you shoot and poison all the dogs and you have this empty territory, then the dogs in the periphery that are untreated, they'll just come in eventually and take that space. And because they'll be taking new territory, they'll be more aggressive in establishing their territory. So bite cases and dog fights and problems and even rabies and diseases can be more prolific and more easily spread. So if you have a population of dogs that's treated, they will keep the other dogs out because they're still territorial. They're just not so aggressive to people. And the whole thing is calmed down. And then once a dog has established his territory, most dogs
they don't
avoid it, and they go. So you're actually helping solve the problems of so many problems when you do it the right way. If we do it the wrong way, 2 or 3 months we have the same problem again. Too many dogs again. So we're trying to educate the people, and it's become one of our main missions because we believe that the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, because after all, that's what we are, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. If we're going to do this, shooting and poisoning, which is an un-Islamic way of doing it, then we are not following our national our national personality and our national religion and what the holy books and hadith says to us to be kind to the animals. And the way that we should treat animals has been handed down by Allah. And we're going against that if we do this the way that we're doing. So maybe dogs aren't important to some people around. They don't like dogs. But maybe they're much more important to Allah. He created them. He created the wolves that we made dogs out of, and now we're responsible for them. So he's looking at us to fulfill our responsibility. And if we're not, then maybe some of the other problems that we have in this country can be sourced to the fact that we have no empathy and we're being cruel to animals and each other, right? So if you look at it in that religious sense, the way that we treat animals could be one reason why we're suffering other problems that aren't directly related, but are related to the fact that we are engaging in hypocrisy and not following our own what our own religion teaches us.
So, as you have mentioned that you run a couple of House of Blessings, one is in Rawalpindi and the other one is in Karachi, I guess. So, what is your future plan to expand that sort of programs? Because I think this is a need of an hour, and most of the cities and rural areas are actually they need sort of infrastructure to be there and be a part of that, because there are most of the people who doesn't have a proper earning models, and they don't have people to take care of them. So what is your plan to expand this program to other cities as well?
Well, a lot of thoughts come to my mind when you ask this question. There's so much there, right? So we want to expand. We're very donor driven. Like one thing about our organization that has led us to be able to do all of these things well, it's because we come from disaster response logistics, where you have to do everything well in a disaster zone, and all of the challenges and obstacles and problems and urgently needed things that happen in a disaster situation. So non-disaster time, logistics is easy for us because we're used to doing it when everything is on fire, right? So that allows us to do logistics and as long as you apply logistics, you can apply logistics to schools, to hospitals, to aid of delivery, to House of Blessings for widows and orphans, to water, to animals. If you have the logistics mapped out, then you can hire some expertise to come in with it. So the reason we do many things well is because we come from a logistics background.
Okay.
There's some NGOs, they just do education. And that's fine. That's totally 100% legitimate that one NGO here or there would be focusing on one thing in particular. And that's needed. But just because that's needed doesn't mean that every NGO should follow the same model. Yeah. Our model is to have many different things because of our background in logistics. So that allows us to do all kinds of wonderful things. And so what we've done is we've applied that ability logistically to looking at, well, where are the gaps in the system in Pakistan? Where is there great need? Well, there's a lot of children and women that are suffering, single mothers, and they need help. There's a gap there in the system where there's not enough as it is support. So we try to fill that. There's water because of climate change and because of the population and scarcity of water. There are places in Pakistan, and so that's an emergency. So we started doing water not because we just wanted to do water, but because we saw the need. We look at the community. Where is the need? There's a disaster over here. They need us over there. So animals was one of those things that also we saw an incredible need. And people say to me all the time, well, there's so many children that need help. Why are you worried about animals? And I say, Sir G, with all due respect, this program is as much, if not more, for our children than it is for the animals. It's for our blessings from Allah. It's for us to do something that teaches empathy for children, and it'll make a more healthy environment for your child to be able to walk to school or walk to the masjid without fear of getting bit. Because unfortunately, dogs, when they're abandoned, they start behaving, if untreated and unmanaged by human beings, they start behaving like their ancestors of wolves. They pack up, they have an alpha male, they have a second in command, they have a whole hierarchy, right? So this is what they do when they're left to their own devices. And so this is a program that is actually more for Pakistan people and its children than it even is for the animals.
So we have been witnessed a lot of cases in the rural areas, especially in Sindh and Punjab, where, most of the wild dogs has been, made into so many cases to, bite children's as well. Most of the child has been died as well. So do you think that, this can prevent all these, incidents as well?
It absolutely will. When you lower the population, you will automatically lower the statistical incidence of bite cases and rabies. The other thing is that once you have dealt with the population by giving the rabies vaccine, is that even if a dog does get bit by another rabid animal, that they'll be protected and they won't develop rabies and they won't spread rabies. So there are all of these reasons why this is a very, very important thing for us to do it the right way. And Pakistanis respect our Turkish brothers and sisters. And we love them. They came, I saw them. I first met people from Turkey when the earthquake happened, and they did an amazing job, and they gave us a lot of medicines, and they worked with us very cooperatively. In Muzaffarabad, they had a hospital. Unfortunately, there was a helicopter crash that killed about 4 or 5 Turkish volunteers. It was very sad. But they did an amazing job. And I think from what I've learned about Pakistan-Turkish relationship, it's always been very close and friendly relationship. So we have a lot of respect for them. So we just have to go no further than to look to what they've done about this problem to see that it is really going to help solve all of these issues that people and children face when they're out in the community and dogs are around. People will see less dogs. They won't be able to have more unwanted puppies, and they will be much less in number. And the dogs that they see will not be packing up like wolves, and they won't be aggressive. They are not likely to get bitten, and they're almost, if we do this right, almost zero chance of rabies being spread.
So this vaccination is available everywhere in Pakistan, or it is somewhere,
It's available, yes. The vaccine
so I
for
think
dogs
it's more like I think with your help, maybe, you can spread this word to, making it an awareness, much like an awareness to the masses for, they can do this in their own regions and their own cities. And
so we want to make this a ubiquitous program that focuses right now on making awareness, so that every citizen, especially the leaders of housing societies and places where this could be done, cantonments, wherever. And then the other part of it is to convince the government to do public-private partnership with NGOs. Because if we do a public-private partnership like what we've now started in Skurdu, the very first one in Pakistan, so that's made history. So we take that partnership, and then we can also go to international animal welfare NGOs and show them this public-private partnership that we're managing with the government. And that those public-private partnerships are very attractive to many donor agencies and countries that donate. So the model is to also get international funding by way of showing that we're doing work with the government. And then the more work we do with the government, the more that we will be able to save on infrastructure. Because in Skurdu, for instance, we have hired some vets, and we have a couple of their government vets working with us. And the government has provided two vehicles, in fact, in Skurdu, and the place. I can send the video to you and anybody that wants to see it. They've given us the space. So we don't have to construct that and buy all that, right? Saves a lot of money. So then we provide some of the salaries and the budget for fuel so that they can go out and catch the dogs, the dog catcher teams. And so this is what we're working on doing. We had a very good conversation with the Chief Minister, Muhammad Vani, last month. And we have an MOU on the table that's just waiting to be signed so that we can do it there. And all of his team was very cooperative. None of them want to kill dogs, but they're getting pressurized from different groups. So we have to push back against that pressurization with education, informing, and trying to tell people that all of these things that I've outlaid to you that we want to make sure that people understand, from children in school all the way up to people in government and business leaders. We want them to understand. In fact, your son's school, Future Work, we went there and did a program and really enjoyed the enthusiasm, and the kids got it. And the thing is, Pakistan has a lot of problems, but there's so many visionary type people like yourself, like the gentleman we just met before I started the show, Faisal Aftab, and so many people on the CxO forum, and then like Zain Jivanji, who's a good friend of ours, who's started a program in Karachi. He's a very visionary and inspiring person. There is so many people in Pakistan or from Pakistan who've now gone to other countries and are doing very well, but still give back a lot to Pakistan like Zain does, because he's been a personal donor for CDRS many years. With visionary people like that, no matter how bad it is, there's always
I agree.
a huge chance to get out of it. And I think we will get out of it. I think that great nations are tested greatly.
I know. I completely agree with you, because, we have lots of problems, but I think it's more like we are not a well-managed country in terms of, managing problems. But I do agree with you. There are a number of visionary people who are actually, always willing to work with, especially people like you. Maybe, I'm just thinking out loud, on the platform of CxO, we can, help you out to connect with the other chief ministers of other provinces as well. We can, make it a proper awareness program. Then, you can educate to all these people. Then,
and other C-level
and
folks can really be
corporate
helpful.
Companies as well. Yes.
So and a lot of those C-level people, they're very brilliant in their field, but they just don't know about this. They don't know about TNVR, and very few people do. Trap, neuter, vaccinate, release, and this program and the science behind it. So, even us C-level people can be educated, right? All of us, everybody in the world, if they feel like they've ever stopped being educated, they don't need to be educated anymore. That's when we stop growing, right? Everybody, no matter who they are, even the smartest amongst us and the most successful among us, can learn something from even a child. There's always, always learning, right? I'm always learning. So I think that this situation with the dogs and the problem with dogs is something that a lot of us in Pakistan need to learn and understand, so that we can start doing pursuing the right solution and not the solution that is actually not a solution, which is even going to drag us further down the hole, right?
Excellent. So is there any message you want to put to the potential people who could be your donors as well? Because, as far as I'm understanding, I think you need to give a proper message to a loud out message to, everyone that, how can a person like me can be a donor to your organization or, can contribute to your organization or your cause?
Well, people can give funds. People can give their time. People can spread the word. People can help me set up events so I can tell more important people. Getting together groups of influential and important people and having an event where I can spread the word, sharing our videos. Anybody can call me or talk to me or WhatsApp me.
How to approach you?
I'm happy to be in touch with them.
How to approach you?
On the forum,
okay.
We can...
At CxO, yes. You are approachable, but apart from CxO...
my WhatsApp number is really the best way to get a hold of me.
Is it available on the website?
It is, and I will just give it now. Okay. It's +92 300 502 9705 or 0300 502 9705.
Okay. Please note it down, Ji.
Yeah, so please get a hold of me if you have any questions or want to get together. And my message to everyone, especially the youth of Pakistan, is that there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of things that we face, but these are tests of Allah, and there will always be another test. If we pass one test and get up a level, well, then we'll find another test, right? There will always be tests for a nation, for a community, for a family, for an individual person. There's always going to be tests, and we are being tested in many ways. But if Pakistan just adjusts a few things, and I think as a outsider who's become an insider, my baby Muhammad Sultan, he's a Pakistani, he's 2 years old. My wife Fozia is Pakistan. So I have fully invested, although it wasn't my plan, it just happened that way by Allah. And so here I am in Pakistan, I've become part of Pakistan, and I'm proud of that, and I'm happy about that. And
so my next question was
I wouldn't trade or change anything about my decision to come to Pakistan. But what I was going to say is being an outsider who's become an insider, and my experience of that shift for almost 18 years now has led me to one conclusion. Pakistan is full of brilliance. Yeah. It only needs more teamwork and trust in each other. Teamwork is essential. You can have 10 idiots that get together for a cause and they'll be successful. You can have 10 brilliant people that are just doing their own thing, not working together. They'll fail. Agreed. So one of the things is that the brilliance is here. The teamwork and learning how to be a team and how to work together is something that I see is needing some sprucing up, right? Okay. Working together and coming together. So if we can teach teamwork more in our lives, in our schools, in our associations, and as a nation, and in small communities, if we can get together and do things as a team, and there are plenty of people in Pakistan who know how to do it and do it well in their company, in their community, brilliant people, visionary people. But because the system is set up kind of in a difficult way, where those people are often not given the resources or the help or the time that is needed in order to make that change. Yeah. Some people get discouraged and give up, and they just focus on their own little thing. So there are these obstacles to overcome, but developing more teamwork and working together for common causes, and not ignoring them and just thinking it's somebody else's job, then I think there's no problem that Pakistan cannot
we can
fix.
Make a lot of change into the system. My last question: how do you like living in Pakistan?
I love it. I go back to US twice a year.
And what is that specifically?
Well, I go back to US twice a year for fundraising. Okay. And my son, I have a son who's 33. My other son.
Because most of the people are actually going towards other countries. Going for But you are living in Pakistan.
Well, a lot of people that leave are leaving because of poverty or a better opportunity to make enough money to take care of their families and things like that. For me, that's never been the first. In fact, it was a very poor decision for me to leave the music business because I was doing well financially. And I went into something that was totally like, who knows what's going to happen. I made a very bad financial decision to come to Pakistan. It was a very bad decision in every financial and economic way that you can imagine. But it was the best decision of my life because it was following a purpose and following your heart and helping others and doing good. So it was actually very much evidence that just going after the economic benefit is not always the best route to take, right? There's other things too. And for me, coming from there to here has enriched my life and given me experiences and opportunities that I could have never imagined. And love from people that I could have never imagined. And some hate that I could have never imagined. It's both. But Pakistan, every single day that I wake up in Pakistan, I see beautiful people, and we help beautiful people who need it. We put a smile on the face of somebody who is crying, give them hope.
Excellent.
We just yesterday took our children from House of Blessings to the shoe store, Alliance, a group in Pakistan of mostly ladies that work with Apna and a lot of Apna doctors. They started an organization called Alliance. And they give us money from time to time to do distributions of food and clothing. And yesterday we gave out 300 pairs of shoes, including to our widows and orphans. And you see the look on their faces, So these are the experiences that my family and I have, and my team have. And then you see beauty, like when we're in Gilgit-Baltistan or when we're on the plains of Punjab in the farmlands, the beautiful farmlands, or we're in Swat where we have our Mother-Child Health Center, or we're down in Balochistan on the coast. The magnificent, the beauty of Allah, the artwork of Allah, the sculptures beyond any sculpture that a human being could ever create. And they're functional sculptures, like mountains create the water cycle with the clouds, and that gives rise to rivers. In Pakistan, you can see that natural beauty in untouched and unspoiled ways, and some of the largest mountains ever. I was just last week staring at Rakapushi and Nanga Parbat, and just the immenseness and the beauty of that. So that's something about Pakistan that I really, I'm an outdoors guy. But the other thing is the culture, the music, the art, the sound of the language, the sound of the azan and coming through the wind and in the morning and in the evening, and then just the amazing mazadar khana.
The food is very good.
I had never had Pakistani food.
What is your favorite
before?
Food?
In Pakistan, I would have to say that it is kind of a tie between many different dishes, because I love the barbecue, like the malai boti and the chicken saji and those dishes from KPK. I love really good mutton cry or chicken cry. I'm a big fan of keema. And for me, I'm a meat guy, right? But I have come to love this makki ki roti. The saag and makki ki roti. So this is like, when I have that in some village somewhere, it's always a little different. Whichever village you get has its own little flavor and spices, whatever. It's a little different, but it's always so amazing with that cornbread and that fresh butter. I don't even miss meat. And that's saying something for me, because I'm a big meat guy. So the food, the culture, the richness, the magical, mystical qualities of this country. I discovered Islam here. I became a Muslim in 2009. So people say to me, even from Pakistan, say, why did you curse yourself to come to Pakistan? And you came from America where you had everything. And I say, actually, I feel beyond blessed by Allah that I am here in Pakistan.
So you have actually found something in your inside, and you found your purpose.
And there's good people like you, and there's so many great, amazing people that I would have never met anywhere else, but for coming to Pakistan.
Have you tried biryani in Karachi?
Oh yeah, I love the biryani. Yeah, I'm more of a fan of mutton biryani or fish biryani than I am. I mean, I like chicken biryani, but when I have biryani, especially in Karachi, I like to go to like that famous seafood place in Kamari. Russian seafood. And you can get fish or shrimp biryani. And that, I mean, I can sit there all night, enjoy the sea breeze and eat that biryani. Excellent. So yeah, I mean, like there's nothing in Pakistan, there's no dish in Pakistan that I don't like, right? Yep. I like pretty much everything I've had. From brain masala, pachika pie, nahari, you know, all that stuff. It's why I have gained 100 kg in Pakistan. Okay. I'm sorry, 50 kg. 50 kg. Yeah, I've gained well over 100 pounds since I first came to Pakistan. If you see pictures of me in the first couple of years, I'm actually a fairly slim guy, right? But coming to Pakistan, where there's a lot of carbs, bread and rice, and sweet drinks and beautiful mangoes, and there, so I have enjoyed. Okay. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because I love it, and I would like to have that thing even if I'm getting too big and I shouldn't have it, right? Okay. Because people in Pakistan, they will say to you, even I'm with a doctor, and I'm sitting with the doctor, and he says, Todd, you should lose some weight. You know, you're getting a little big and you should cut out this, and this, bread, rice, and sugar and all this. And then we'll sit down to dinner, and I'm saying, Doc Saab, all the things that you've told me to avoid, you're serving me yourself. And he says, oh no, this is for tonight. You start tomorrow. You can have it, right? But everybody says that. You can start your diet tomorrow. So sometimes there's heavy emotional blackmail with Pakistanis, right?
A lot.
Yeah. I'll have
haven't touched this dish.
Yeah, I'll have eaten a whole plate. And they will say, you haven't had anything. So then you feel obliged to have a second plate, and then you enjoy it, you love it, you want to have a second plate. So it's like, it's very hard to battle. That's one thing that I haven't yet found anywhere in the world. Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much, Todd, for coming and joining the CxO podcast today.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
We had a great discussion. Thank you so much, जी.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. बहुत शुक्रिया जी. आज मज़ा आया टॉड से बात करके. बहुत सारी चीज़ों पे, स्पेशली पाकिस्तान के बारे में और पाकिस्तानी ट्रेडिशन और खानों के बारे में हमने बात की. इनका एक इदारा है CDRS के नाम से. मैं उनका एक छोटा सा एम्बेसडर भी हूँ, बट ये इनका काम बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. प्लीज़ इनको सपोर्ट करें और इनके प्रोग्राम में आप शामिल हों. हमारी CxO पॉडकास्ट देखते रहें, इसको लाइक करें, शेयर करें और सब्सक्राइब करें. थैंक यू सो मच.